This is Sara with Posh Pooch Designs, and today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make a Kitties in the Row bag. Now this bag I wrote probably 4 or 5 years ago. This crochet pattern was originally written for the big size bag, and this bag measures about 14 inches across and about 12 inches tall. And so I decided to make a small bag, a mini kitty bag, to go with it. And this bag measures about 7 inches by about 6 inches. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to make the small bag, and then I'll also give you the counts and references and things so that if you want to make a big bag, you can. Now what you're going to need is 3 colors of worsted weight number 4 yarn. And for this bag, we used the Red Heart with Love. For this bag, these are all Red Heart Super Saver colors. This is Spring Green, Aqua, and Bright Pink. And then these colors are this muted blue, light blue, and an off beige. I don't have the wrappers for the other colors anymore, but this bag was made, like I said, with Red Heart with Love, worsted weight number 4, and this one is Red Heart regular Super Saver number 4. So you can use any worsted weight number 4 yarns that you want to. Now I did 3 colors. You can do 4 or 5 or 2, however that you want. Now we're going to be stitching today with our eye hook, and the eye hook is a 5.50 millimeter crochet hook. You're going to need a needle for weaving in those ends, and of course a pair of scissors. Like I said, this is a free pattern on my blog, and I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath the video so that you can have that and check your stitch counts and things. Alright, well, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be making the small bag for our demonstration. We're going to begin with the slip knot, and then we're going to chain 17. If you're making the large bag that is 14 by 12 inches wide, you're going to need to chain 33 chains. So I'm going to chain 17. So here's my chain of 17, and remember, if you're making the large bag, you need to chain 33. We're going to begin stitching in the second chain from the hook. This is our first chain, and this is our second chain, and we're going to place 1 single crochet in each chain across. So we're going to put our hook through the chain, yarn over and pull that loop through, yarn over and pull that loop through those 2 loops. And we'll do this all the way across this chain. And because we started in the second chain from the hook, we're only going to get 16 single crochets. If you're making the large bag, you're going to get 32 single crochets because you began with 33. We're placing 1 single crochet in each chain across after we started in the second chain from the hook. So I placed 1 single crochet in each of the chains, and now I'm going to turn, and I'm going to be working down what we call the opposite side or the other side of the chain. And we're going to place 1 single crochet in each of those chains so that we have a total of 16 on this side as well, or 32 if you're making the large bag. And so you're just going to go in that chain and stitch 1 single crochet in each of the chains across. Go right in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through the 2. Now we are starting at the bottom of the bag, and so we're making the bottom portion now, and then we're going to work up to the top of the bag till we get to the handles. We're going to continue across, stitching 1 single crochet in each of the chains across, and then we're going to join to that first single crochet that we stitched. So I stitched 1 single crochet in each of the chains, working back up the opposite side of the chain. Now we're going to join to this first single crochet that we stitched with a slip stitch and chain 1. And these next 3 rows are going to be super easy. You're just going to place 1 single crochet in each single crochet, and we're going to be working all the way around the bottom of our bag, and this is going to start forming the bottom and it will start coming up. So 1 single crochet in each of the single crochets, working all the way around, and then we'll join back to that first chain 1. I stitched the row all the way around, and this is the way it should look, curve around there on the side, and then on this side we're going to join right to that first single crochet with a slip stitch and chain 1. And you'll see that side ends up having a little corner also. So what we're going to do for the next 2 rows is we're going to repeat that. 1 single crochet in each single crochet around, join, chain 1. Then 1 single crochet in each single crochet around, join, and chain 1. And that will be the bottom of our bag, and then we'll get to start adding our kitties. I finished the 4 rows of single crochet for the bottom of my bag, and now we're going to add the foundation row in order to start stitching on our kitties. We're going to chain 3. This chain 3 counts as a double crochet. We're going to double crochet in the same stitch as that chain 3. Yarn over, go in that stitch and pull up a loop. Yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over and go through the second 2. Then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to go into this next stitch and stitch 2 double crochets. And then chain 1. So we have a chain 3 that counts as a double crochet. Then we have a double crochet in the same stitch. We chained 1, and in the next stitch we stitched 2 double crochets and then a chain 1. We're going to skip the next 2 single crochets, and then we're going to place 2 double crochets in the next stitch. Chain 1 and 2 double crochets in the next stitch. And chain 1. And this is the way we will work this row all the way around. 2 double crochets in the next stitch, chain 1. 2 double crochets in the next stitch, chain 1, and then skip 2 stitches and repeat. 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets in the next stitch, chain 1, and then skip. And you'll do this all the way around the bag, and then you'll join back over here to the top of our chain 3. So on this row, you should have 8 of these 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet clusters for the small size bag. If you're doing the large bag, you should have 16 clusters. All right, now we're going to do the second row. We're still using the same color. We're going to change colors on the next row. So what we're going to do is we're going to place a slip stitch in that next double crochet. Then we're going to slip stitch in this chain one space between the first two double crochet clusters. And then we're going to chain 3. And we're going to place a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet, and another double crochet. So basically what we're going to be doing is this chain 3 here counted as a double crochet, and then we double crochet, chain 1, and then 2 double crochets, and we're going to do this in each of the sets of clusters all the way around. We're going to chain 1, and then we'll go to the next 2 sets of 2 double crochets. We'll go in the center in that chain 1 space, and we'll stitch 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. And chain 1. And we'll do this all the way around the bag and then join back to this chain 3, and then we'll change colors and you'll start seeing the kitties starting to emerge. So just to repeat, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets in each of the chain 1 spaces between each of the 2 sets of double crochet. This is how your bag should look after this row. And again, if you're doing the small bag, you should have 8 clusters all the way around, and if you're doing the big bag, you'll have 16. So now what we're going to do is change colors. Now we're not going to cut our yarn, we're going to tell it along in the back. In other words, we're going to just leave it attached because we're going to be switching from 3 colors, and we don't want to have all of those extra ends to weave in. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and leave it attached. Put our hook back through the loop. We'll grab our new color. I'm using this blue. Pull that through the loop. Snug that down. And I always kind of hold it with my finger. And then I put the new loop color in and snug that down. So then we're going to chain 3. And this first chain 3 counts as a double crochet, and the clusters are stitched the same as we already did. The difference is what we do in between. So the chain 3 does count as a double crochet. We're going to double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, and then 2 double crochets in that same stitch. So there you can see we have chain 3 counts as a double crochet, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. Now this next step is what makes it look like our kitties have paws. So we're going to do what I call my version of a puff stitch. Wrap your yarn around, and you're going to go through the first chain 1 space down here, going over both of these, and go through, pull up a loop, yarn over, and only go through the first 2, leaving the last 2 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over, go through again, and pull another loop through, and only go through the first 2 loops. Then you'll yarn over and go through all 3 of those loops. And that's just what I call a simple puff stitch. Most puff stitches have 3 or more wraps, but we're only doing 2 because that makes it look like the kitty paw. Alright, so now we're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets in the next chain 1 space of our cluster there. So we'll do that exactly the same. 1, 2, chain 1, and 1, 2 double crochets. Whoops, there we go. one more double crochet, and then we're going to stitch another puff stitch. So yarn over, go underneath both of those chain ones from the 2 previous rows, pull up a loop, yarn over, and only go through the first 2 loops. Yarn over, go all the way around, yarn over and only go through the first 2 loops, then yarn over and go through all 3 of those loops. I'm going to turn it around and you'll start to see that these are the paws for the kitty. Now when we come back through and do the next row, it'll look even more like a kitty. So what we're going to do is just continue what we're doing, making our 2 double crochets, chain 1 and 2 double crochets, and then we're going to do another puff stitch, and we'll do this all the way around and then join back to this chain 3. This is how the bag should look after this row, row 7. Now for row 8, we're just going to repeat what we did on row 6, which is basically stitching. We're going to slip stitch over to that chain 1 space, and we're going to stitch a cluster stitch of 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, and of course our chain 3 counts as one of those double crochets. There's my chain 1. Now I'm going to stitch 2 more double crochets because our cluster stitches are always the same. 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. But we're not going to stitch here. We're just going to chain 1 and then go right over to this next cluster stitch and stitch 2 double crochets, chain 1 and 2 double crochets. So we're repeating on this row what we did on row 6. Chain 1 and then the cluster stitches. Now we'll be changing colors every 2 colors. And so what we'll do here is 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets in that chain 1 space, then we'll chain 1 and we'll repeat that all the way around. And then we're going to change colors, and then we'll repeat this row with the puff stitches in the next row. And then you'll again see how the kitties will kind of pop out. Alright, so let's do this row. 2 double crochets in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, 2 double crochets in the same chain 1 space, chain 1 and go to the next chain 1 space. Do this all the way around. We'll join to the top of our chain 3 and then we'll change to our 3rd color. So we finished this row and we're ready to change colors. We're again going to leave our blue, darker blue I should say, because I'm going to be adding a lighter blue, yarn attached. We're going to bring in our new color, snug that down, pull the new loop through, snug that down, then we're going to slip stitch in that chain 1 space, make sure that loops down, and chain 3. And of course that chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. All right, so let's put a double crochet in that same stitch. Chain 1 and 2 double crochets. This row is exactly like the first darker blue one that we did. So there's our first set of 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, and we're again going to stitch that puff stitch. We're going to wrap our yarn over, and then we're going to go in the top. Here's this puff stitch from the previous row. We're going to go right in the top of that and push our hook through, pull our yarn up, yarn over, and go through the first 2. Yarn over and go right back in that same spot on the top of that puff stitch. Pull a loop through, yarn over, and go through the next 2. Yarn over and go through all 3. And then we're going to go to our next set of 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochets, and stitch 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. Alrighty. Get that up there real quick. And then you can see we stitched our puff stitch in a puff stitch. All right. Now we're ready to do it again. We've done our 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. So we're going to yarn over, go right in the top of that puff stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go back in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through all 3. And then again we go to the next chain 1 space of the clusters or the shell stitch. Alrighty, let me turn this around here, and you can see the little kitties are starting to look like little kitties. And this is the way this row is done. We're going to do it exactly the same way for the rest of the bag. We'll do a row like this, and then we'll do a row like we did here where we just did clusters and chain 1. And we'll repeat that over and over. For each 2 rows will be 1 color. And that's how you get the look of the kitties in a row. Alright, so let's go ahead and finish these 2 rows. For our little bag. Whoops, I stitched a double crochet instead of a puff stitch. There we go. Alright, there's my puff stitch. Alright, so we'll stitch it just like this all the way around, and we'll join to the top of that chain 3. So this is how your bag should look after the first row of our next color, and we're going to do exactly the same that we did on this row, where we're going to stitch 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, and then repeat all the way around. And that is the way this bag will work for the body portion of the bag. Let me grab this big one over here. You can see how many rows that we did for repeat. Here's the original one, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows, and or I should say colors, because each color is 2 rows, of course. And it's up to you how many rows that you want to do. For this big bag, you can see we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 rows of the shell portion. But I'm not going to do that many rows for the small one. I actually prefer only doing the 2, 4, 6, and then another set of the beige for the smaller bag, and then put that top and the handle on. But of course, Whatever you want to do, you can do. Make it as long as you want, because you're going to be repeating these 2 rows over and over again. The shell stitches are all the same. 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet, and then you'll do your puff stitch, and then your next row will be the 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet, and then you'll chain 1 in between, because when we do the puff stitch, we come all the way down and do that stitch in the puff stitch from the previous row. Alright, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do this next row. So I need to slip stitch to that chain 1 space, chain 3, do my double crochet, chain 1, and then 2 double crochets, because again that chain 3 counted as a double crochet. Then we just chain 1, and then we repeat this all the way around, because our next row will come through and stitch that puff stitch down. Now I am going to go ahead and finish this row, and then I'm going to do the beige row, because I want to show you how to bring your color back in, because we're not cutting our threads, we're letting them hang and then bringing them back in order for us not to have to tie in a bunch of ends. Now if you're uncomfortable leaving them attached and you want to cut them for every row, you certainly can. I just prefer to do it this way because I think it makes the bag a little bit more sturdy. So I'll go ahead and finish this row, and then I'll show you how to add the color back in that we have tailing across the inside. I did that second row of blue, working those clusters with the chain 1 in between, and I'm going to bring back in my beige yarn. And so what we do, I hook back in there, there we go. We just grab that beige yarn, and I kind of turn it out a little bit just so I can see where it's at. There we go. And I pull it up. I make sure that I'm not puckering or leaving a big gap. Then I'll pull that one, the blue one, a little bit to snug it down. Then I'll hold it with my thumb and join that new color in and snug that one down. We want it to be held in place, but we don't want it to be gapey or like hanging in there in the way. So that's something to consider, you know, when you're doing this. Like I said, if you're more comfortable cutting your yarn and weaving in your ends, you can totally do that, and that's fine. All right, so this row we're going to be working it with the puff stitches. So let's slip stitch in that first double crochet to get us over to the center of that cluster. 1, 2, there we go, 3. That's our first double crochet. Then we're going to double crochet, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. Like we always do. Then I'm going to stitch that puff stitch, yarn over, go down to the top of that puff stitch, pull that yarn through, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go back into that puff stitch, pull the yarn through, yarn over, go through the first 2, then yarn over and go through all 3. And that's my version of a simple puff stitch. All right, now we're going to go and do 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. We'll do this all the way around again. Let me snug that down. We're going to do this all the way around, and then I'm going to go ahead and do that next row where we just do our cluster stitch with the chain 2 in between, and then I'll show you how to finish off your bag. We now have the body of the small bag done, and this rest of this portion is similar with the large bag as far as the technique, and we're going to switch to this medium blue color. So again, I'm going to pull my yarn up, hook it in there, snug that down, and then do a chain 1 and snug that down as well. Now we'll just let those yarns lay over. And what we're going to be doing on this row is we're setting up the band of the top of the bag, and then we're going to make the handle. And so what we're going to do is we're going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch and each chain 1 all the way around. So we'll place a single crochet in each of the double crochets. We'll place a single crochet in the chain 1 space, then we'll stitch a single crochet in those next 2 double crochets, and then we'll stitch a single crochet in the chain 1 space between. Some more yarn out here. So, single crochet in the 2 double crochets, we'll single crochet in the chain 1 space, we'll single crochet in the next 2 double crochets, and then again in the chain 1 space. So basically, just a row of single crochet all the way around the top of the bag, and then we'll join to that first single crochet. I stitched that row of single crochet all the way around, and I joined to that first single crochet. And this next row and then the next 2 rows, all we're going to do is place 1 single crochet in each single crochet all the way around, and that will give us 4 rows of single crochets. And this is the top band of our bag. So we're still working with our medium blue, and we're just going to place 1 single crochet in each single crochet around, join to the first single crochet, and repeat for 2 more rows, and this will give us a total of 4 rows of single crochet on our bag band. I've completed the 4 rows of single crochet for the top of the band for my bag, and I'm going to go ahead and cut my medium blue yarn because I'm done with that color. And now I'm going to join in again from the inside my light blue yarn. I'm going to snug that down. Alright, now this portion can be a little bit tricky, so I want to make sure that you understand. We're going to be crocheting and then skipping to form the handles and then crocheting around. For the small bag, we're going to begin with placing 1 single crochet in the first 7 single crochets. If you're doing the large bag, you're going to be putting 1 single crochet in the first 14 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we're going to be skipping chains and adding chains for the handle. So we're going to go ahead and chain the chains for the handle. For the small bag, we're going to chain 15, and for the large bag, you would chain 25. I chained my 15 chains, and now I need to skip some chains in here in order to form my bag handle. So for the small bag, I'm going to skip the next 8 single crochets. And then I'm going to join with a single crochet to the next single crochet. There we go. Now for the large bag, you're going to skip 16 single crochets in here and attach to the next single crochet. Now we're going to single crochet in the next 7 single crochets for the first side. And again, for the large bag, it'll be 14 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and one more. Now that's the first side of our bag. And then we'll repeat what we just did here on the back side of the bag. So we'll single crochet in the next 7 single crochets, or 14 if you're doing the large bag. Let me count to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's my first 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need to do one more. Then I'm going to chain 15. I chained 15, and remember, for the large bag you need to chain 25. And again, we're going to skip 8 stitches, and then we're going to stitch in those last 7 stitches to finish off our bag. So I chained my 15, I joined and stitched 7 single crochets, and now I'm going to join to that first single crochet and chain 1. And so here's how my bag looks. Here's my handles. And so the next 2 rows, we're just going to place 1 single crochet in each single crochet and in each chain so that we get a nice sturdy handle. So there's my single crochets, and now I'm going to single crochet in each of the chains. And of course this is the same for both bags. And we'll do this all the way around for 2 rows. And this will give us a total of 3 rows of single crochet. I finished the last 2 rows going around my handles. Now I will tell you that it's easy to get your counts off when you're adding your single crochets back in and working the handle portion. Don't let it freak you out or get you frustrated. The main thing is, if you have a couple of single crochets more or less, it's okay. Just make sure that your handles are centered in the center of your bag and are with each other. I've done quite a few of these, and sometimes I've gotten off by 1 too many, and sometimes I've gotten off by 1 or 2 too less. And just make sure that your handles are in the center of your bag. All right, so we're done with the blue, and we're just going to do the last row. And so the only thing left is the beige, and you can see by leaving them attached, you do end up with a little bit of a knot, but don't let it worry you. It comes out really quickly. Things are just twisted. All right, so let's do the last row. And the last row for the handles is just merely a shell stitch row. And you don't have to do this row. It just gives it a little bit of funness to it. So the way this last row on the handle is done is we're going to stitch shell stitches with single crochets in between. And you'll just stitch 3 double crochets in 1 single crochet. You'll skip the next single crochet, and then we'll stitch a single crochet. You'll skip the next single crochet, and we'll stitch 3 doubles together. It just makes a nice little edge for our bag. I'm going to go ahead and pull up that last color, which is our beige. Snug that last blue one down. All right, so I'm going to start with the single crochet. I'm going to skip this next stitch, and then I'm going to place 3 double crochets in the next stitch. And this is just a fun little trim. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. We're going to skip the next single crochet and single crochet in the next stitch, then skip the next single crochet and make a shell stitch, of 3 double crochets. And we'll do these fun little shell stitches all the way around the top of the bag and the handle. We'll join to the top of that first single crochet, and then we'll be all done with our kitty bag. I finished my last row of shell stitches, and you can see it turned out really cute. And just to give you a reference as to the size, here's the big one, and this one is about half the size. Oops, there's the flower. Now the flower isn't on this pattern. We're going to do that at another time, but the pattern for the flower is on the blog for you. So this is our Kitties in a Row bag and mini bag.